You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham. It is Thursday, December 28th. I actually had to think about that for a second because it's that time between, I've been seeing this on Instagram a bunch, it's kind of that time between Christmas and New Year's where you don't really know what day it is, who you are, or what you're supposed to be doing. That is definitely how I feel. Today I've got a fun podcast though. I want to talk today about how you should properly go about determining the GOAT, okay, the greatest of all time. It's an argument that is by far the most fun for everybody to have because it is very subjective and objective, and there's just so many opinions flying around. There's just a wide variety. And the greatest examples I can think of are, of course, basketball with Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Wilt, whoever you think it might be, Bill Russell. And then, of course, quarterback in football, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning. It's a very, very intense conversation. There's a lot of disputes that take place, and it's a lot of fun. So here's the thing. Oftentimes, the reason I thought of this, by the way, is because Barack Obama was being interviewed, and he was asked, who he would pick, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. And he picked Jordan. And Scottie Pippen came out just yesterday or today and said that he made the right choice in picking Jordan. But Scottie Pippen has also said that, just a few months ago, it seems like, said that he felt like maybe James, LeBron that is, was better all around than Jordan. So Scottie seems to be kind of flip-flopping. And here's where I think it gets important. Because LeBron lovers want to claim that he's putting up better numbers, better all-around statistics, more overall total statistics, things like that. He's been to more finals, and those are all pretty accurate statements, with the averages not as much as maybe they think, because their rebounds and assists are actually quite close, and points Jordan leads, steals Jordan leads. There's some important categories where Jordan is ahead in total and in averages, but so that's their argument, right? He's got 3 championships, and then they want to claim that Jordan supporters' only argument back is 6 for 6. 6 for 6 for 6, meaning 6 finals appearances, 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs. Well, that is a very, very strong argument, but it's not. So then they want to say, well, if your argument is that he got 6 championships, he has more championships than LeBron, then I guess Robert Horry's better than Jordan. And it's like, okay, I can't have a conversation with you anymore. Because, yeah, Robert Horry got 7. That's great. Nobody in their right mind thinks that he's better. Nobody is saying that championships are the end-all, be-all, only statistic to look at. But they are a massive, massive piece of the puzzle. So did Bill Russell get 11? Yeah, he did. What was the competition like back then, though? How many teams were there? How stiff was the competition? It wasn't that stiff. There weren't very many teams. It wasn't as big of a deal. There were the franchises were just every franchise had a dynasty. It was like the Celtics forever, then the Lakers forever. It was, the league was not nearly as competitive as it is now, not even close. So yeah, he won 11 championships. Yes, he's one of the greats of all time. But Bill Russell does not even make the real conversation if we're talking about the greatest basketball player ever. He's somewhere around the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He probably makes the top 10, but barely. That's where Bill Russell is. Robert Horry, of course, isn't even in the top 500. But you look at you got to look at everything. You can't just look at statistics. You can't just look at LeBron James averages more assists and more rebounds and almost as many points, therefore he's better. Well, no. You can't just look at totals. Oh, Kareem and Karl Malone, they played a million years and they racked up all these all-time stats. They must be the best. No. You can't just look at championships and say, well, Bill Russell must be the best. No, it doesn't work like that. It's combining all of those into a formula and then taking into account situation as well. So, for instance, here's a good example of what I'm talking about. Kareem has great career averages. He has great career totals. He has a lot of MVPs. He has a lot of championships. He, on paper, has a very strong argument to be the greatest basketball player of all time because he does have all of the things I just talked about. But then you take into account the actual situation. Well, what does that mean? That means what years did he get those championships? What role was he playing on those championship teams? Are those 6 championships as valuable as they seem? We just assume they are because he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and he's the all-time leading scorer and he's this and that. But then you look at the finals that he played in, and he was MVP of the finals twice, which means 4 championship teams he was on. He was not even the best player on his team, at least for that series. And I would argue for really the entirety of the season, Magic Johnson was. So again, 4 times that Kareem won a championship, he was not even the best player on his team. So does Scottie Pippen have 6 championships? Yeah, he does. Does that make him the greatest does that make him the same as Michael Jordan? No. Everybody knows that, especially those that watch the games. He was Robin and Jordan was Batman. So you have to look at the situation, and then you have to look at the impact a player can make. So if we're moving away from basketball and talking about football, now how impactful can a defensive end be on a game? They can be quite impactful, but there's 22 guys on a field, and by far the most impactful player is the quarterback. Therefore, I don't put as much emphasis on championships when talking about whoever the greatest defensive player is in football as I do on when I talk about who the greatest quarterback of all time is, because a quarterback can impact a game far more than any other position in football. So when you're talking about great quarterbacks, that's why you have to look at Super Bowl rings. Tom Brady, Joe Montana. That's my biggest knock on Peyton Manning. How does he perform on the biggest stage in the biggest moments? Yes, he has 2 rings, but how good was he in that second one? He was almost more of a liability in the second one with the Broncos just a few years ago. So you really have to look at all of these things. You can't just look at one statistic or one category and hone in on it and just get obsessed with it. You can't just say Jordan has the most rings, or LeBron has the better stats, or Peyton has the better stats, or Brady has more rings. You have to look at everything. So then that's where it becomes kind of fun because Jordan and LeBron are pretty close, right? Jordan does have more rings, more finals MVPs, did it in a shorter amount of time, averaged more points, more steals on the all-defensive team more times. But LeBron averages more assists, has more triple-doubles, more rebounds, has been to more finals. There's things like that. So there's really an argument, right, for both guys. But when you look at all things, you take all things considered, in my opinion, it's not even close. It's Michael Jordan over LeBron James. I do think LeBron is a top 3 player of all time, for sure a Mount Rushmore guy, right? If you were to pick your top 4 Mount Rushmore guys, to me you've got Michael, Magic, LeBron for sure. And honestly, I probably would put Kareem up there as my 4th. I'd have to. It's so tough with the center position because there's so many guys, but LeBron, he makes it, right, because he's in the conversation. That's why a guy like Kobe Bryant doesn't make the conversation as much as LeBron, because Kobe does have 5 championships, right? He has 5. That's more than LeBron has. So why isn't he better than LeBron? Why, if I'm a Jordan guy saying that I think Jordan is better than LeBron because he has 6 championships, why am I not saying that Kobe is because Kobe has 5? Well, because I'm smart and I know that Shaq was the bigger factor in the first 3 championships that Kobe got, and Kobe was the bigger factor in the final 2 championships he got. Whereas LeBron has been the best player on his team literally every single year of his career, even including when he was a rookie. LeBron has been the best player on his team, the leader of his team. With the Heat, Dwayne Wade was very close in those 2 championship years. Dwayne Wade has, of course, fallen off quite a bit since. But Dwayne Wade was an MVP of the finals before LeBron came. He was close, but LeBron was still the best player on that team, and LeBron won the MVP in all 3 of his championship titles. And you could argue that he should have gotten the MVP last year and 3 years ago, the 2 losses to the Warriors with the Cavs, because he averaged triple-double, put up amazing numbers. So LeBron definitely has been the best player on his team every year of his career. He's been the leader. He's been the focal point in his championship runs, and he's done it 3 times to Kobe Bryant only having done it twice. LeBron has 4 league MVPs. Kobe only has 1, which is highway robbery, by the way, because Steve Nash has 2. But anyway, to me, LeBron surpasses Kobe because you look at the all-around picture. Field goal percentage is better. Assists and rebounds are better. Championships are only slightly behind, but finals MVPs are actually ahead. So is Kobe up there? Yes, Kobe's absolutely up there, but not quite to LeBron status. You take it over to quarterback now. Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Who has the best overall numbers? Peyton Manning does. Does that mean he's the best? Nope. Not to me, it doesn't. To me, Tom Brady is only slightly behind him. Tom Brady's still playing, by the way. He's probably going to win MVP again this year at age 40. He's probably going to go to another Super Bowl. So to me, when you take all things considered, you look at game-winning drives, you look at clutch performances, you look at playoff victories, you look at all these different things, how they perform in the biggest situations, and you couple that with their statistics, then you can reach your GOAT, right? So to me, Tom Brady surpasses Peyton Manning, and honestly, Joe Montana probably surpasses Peyton Manning as well. Peyton Manning would probably come in number 3 for me. Why? Because quarterback can affect the game more than any other position in football. So if you're asking me who the greatest, I don't know, like I said, defensive end is, I'm not going to care as much about championships because they don't have as much control over that. In basketball, there's only 5 guys on a court and everybody plays, or there's 10 guys on a court, 5 guys on a team, and everybody plays both ways. There's not an offensive guy and a defensive guy. There might be offensive and defensive specialists, but you're on the court for offense and defense when you're on the court. So you can have a huge impact on the game. There's fewer players. You're playing both ways. There's no question that when in basketball, if you don't take championships into effect, you're missing the big picture entirely. In football, if it's a quarterback, it has to be a crucial point. Yes, there's 11 other guys and then 11 more on the defensive side of the ball for your team. But you are the leader. You are the quarterback. The ball is in your hands, and you can go get it done. And Tom Brady has proven time and time again that he does get it done, and that's why he's the GOAT. Another example, look at baseball. Who is the greatest baseball player of all time? Well, Barry Bonds has the most home runs, so it must be him, right? No. And why not? Well, because he was like taking steroids and stuff. Like he's kind of like a known cheater. Did he amass some of the greatest numbers in Major League Baseball history? Yep, he did. Most home runs in a career, most home runs in a season. And beyond that, the dude had like 7 gold gloves, 14-time All-Star. His World Series performance, even though they lost, was one for the ages. Barry Bonds was phenomenal in that World Series in, what was it, like 2002? He had 4 home runs in a 7-game series. Let me see if I can look it up, actually. I know he had 4 home runs. He batted over 400. He was walked like 13 times. I mean, people are scared to death of Barry Bonds. But we're not going to put him number 1. He didn't win a World Series ever, which baseball is similar to football, where you don't have as much control. It's kind of a one-on-one sport, right? Like it's batter versus pitcher, and they just take turns playing one-on-one. And so it is a team sport in the sense that, you know, you could be the greatest hitter of all time, but if the guys around you can't hit, then you're not going to win games. If your pitchers stink, you're not going to win games. You can score 10 runs, but if your pitchers are giving up 11 runs, then you're losing games. You know what I'm saying? So baseball is similar to football in that regard, where it is a team sport, and championships are definitely the ultimate goal, and they are important, but they can't be the end-all, be-all because there's too many other factors weighing in. But Barry Bonds didn't get a championship, and he kind of was a cheater. So you can't say it's him. To me, it would be Babe Ruth, because you take all things into consideration. He had fewer home runs than Barry Bonds, yes. He had fewer home runs than Hank Aaron, yes. But the guy had a 94-46 record as a starting pitcher in the major leagues. And we don't even think of him as a pitcher. We think of him as a home run hitter because he's number 3 all time. He had a 342 lifetime average, almost 3,000 hits in his career, over 2,200 RBI, and he won the World Series 7 times. So to me, that's the greatest baseball player of all time. Behind him would probably be, honestly, Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth's number 1. Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds, Willie Mays, those are the guys. Greatest pitchers of all time, Roger Clemens comes to mind. Dominant. Has the ERA, has the wins, has the strikeouts, has the longevity, has the title, World Series. So you take all things into consideration. So when you're making your argument out there, when you're fighting with your buddies about who the greatest of all time is, when you're having that GOAT argument, don't be the guy who focuses on just one thing. Don't be the guy who focuses only on statistics or only on championships. Focus on both of those together. Take into account situation. How much control did that guy have? How good was he in the clutch performances? How much of an impact did he have on that championship? So he got that championship. Okay, how important was he to that championship? The Kareem Abdul-Jabbar example. He was important, but he wasn't the best player on his team for 4 of them. Magic Johnson was. Whereas Jordan, 6'6", it's a huge argument. And when you couple that with the fact that he's the all-time leader in points per game average, 9 times on the all-defensive team, averaged more steals than LeBron, more points than LeBron, shot way better from the free throw line than LeBron, equal to him in field goal percentage, very close in three-point percentage as well. And it's in an era where the three-point shot didn't matter. You take all those things into consideration, and logic points solely at Michael Jordan and nobody else. You take all things into consideration. Statistics, championships, situation, impact on wins, impact on the team. When those stats came, Kobe Bryant scored 81, but it was in a season where the Lakers were no good, right? You take all those things into consideration. That is my podcast for today. Go out there, make your argument for the GOAT with your friends, and do it intelligently. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out stbsportstake.com. Simply the best in sports. 'Cause we are